Moi everyone and welcome to Finish Your Plate. Viili is a unique fermented milk product that's really not known outside of Finland, or maybe at least outside of Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway. And there's even a saying in Finnish that somebody is as calm as a bowl of viili. As we can see, I have a few here. It is very thick. It's a close relative to yogurt, but it is much simpler to make than yogurt. Besides the sweet version of viili, there's also a savory version that can be used for recipes or dipping like chips or maybe even vegetables. And I'll show you exactly how you can make this Finnish fermented milk product at home. The process of making viili at home is super simple. First of all, like any other bacteria in the world, there are two kinds of yogurt creating bacteria. There's the thermophilic bacteria, like the acidophilus used in regular store yogurt like this. Then there's the mesophilic bacteria, like the one in viili. And the difference is that the thermophilic bacteria thrives in temperatures around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, whereas the mesophilic bacteria really only needs to be just at room temperature or slightly above. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some milk, just regular organic milk in this case, and I'm going to create my first viili batch here. I'm going to measure in a mason jar, which has these measurements on the side. I'm going to fill it up to the highest level, which in this case it's 300 milliliters of milk. Now in my milk, I'm just going to measure 1 teaspoon of my starter culture. I'll put a link to the starter culture in the description, so you could go ahead and get yours too. Looks like this was just about 1 teaspoon in the bag, so I'm just going to pour it in. Give it a good mix. Make sure it's all dissolved. Put the lid back on. And now we're going to leave this at room temperature overnight, about 10-12 hours maybe. I'll see you then. While my viili is fermenting, I'm going to make a very traditional sauce to go with the viili. This is rosehip juice. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a cup of it. Pour it in my pan. I'll add about 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. Here I'm going to take about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, mix it with cold water. So we're making cornstarch slurry. Now that my juice is coming to a boil, I'm just going to start drizzling in the cornstarch until this thickens into a thick sauce, which is about here. So let's check the consistency. All right. That's pretty good. It's going to thicken a little bit more when it cools down. I have here some yogurt jars, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ladle the sauce on the bottom. And now I'm going to let this cool down, so it's going to be completely cool before we're going to add the viili in. Now my viili has been fermenting for a full day, so let's take a look at the results. And here we can see that ropey texture that's so distinctive of viili. You could certainly put this in the fridge and then eat it in a day or two. But I'm actually going to use this as a starter for my small viilis that I have. I have a couple of different kinds of milk here for different purposes. First of all, I have regular whole milk over here. And I also have some half and half that I'm going to use to make kermaviili, which is a Finnish product that's usually not eaten alone, but used in recipes or as a dipping mix, kind of like sour cream in the US. In most recipes, actually, sour cream is an okay substitute for kermaviili, but they are a little bit different, as we'll find out. Also, I have some non-homogenized milk. Traditionally, viili, plain viili, is made with non-homogenized milk. So this way you get that cream top on top of the container, which is especially delicious. Of course, finding non-homogenized milk might be a bit of a challenge, so you could certainly use regular whole homogenized milk instead. So I'm just gonna shake this milk because the cream is on the top. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pour some into each container. And again, I'm just gonna inoculate each one of these with just about a teaspoon of fermented viili. And I'm just gonna mix them all up. So what homogenization does in milk, it's actually breaking the fat globules, the large fat globules in the milk, into smaller pieces. So this way the cream does not rise to the top. That is your regular store milk. And to make the kermaviili, I'm going to take half and half, which has a fat content of about 9%, which is the same as Finnish kermaviili. And I'm just going to fill my container with the half and half, and again inoculate the half and half with some of this viili. And finally, I'll take some of whole milk, just regular homogenized whole milk. Just going to pour it into the bowl and inoculate it in the bowl, because I want to mix it, but I don't want to mix it in here so as not to disturb the sauce on the bottom. So making viili is very much like making yogurt. However, this is much simpler than making yogurt, since you do not need to keep it at high temperature like yogurt. Room temperature is perfect. Now I'm just going to cover all these up. And now these again can stay at room temperature until tomorrow. So we can see how it fermented into a thick yogurt kind of texture. Don't turn it upside down, it might actually fall out still. And if we take our spoon, take it out, we can see that same viili texture, a thick, rich viili texture. So now to dress them up, the most classic thing to do is just a little white sugar and some cinnamon. Also, you could dress it up just like you would yogurt. Maybe some pieces of granola. And a couple of blueberries. There we go. And this one, since it already has the fruit on the bottom, doesn't really need anything more on top. And here's of course the kermaviili. The kermaviili is a little bit different because it's never eaten alone, but it's used in recipes or most often as a dip. So I'm just going to make a quick barbecue style dipping spice mix to mix into the kermaviili, and then you can use it on chips or something. In my spice grinder, I'm just going to add a half a tablespoon of sugar, about the same amount of salt, some paprika, about 2 teaspoons, about a half a teaspoon of black pepper and white pepper, 2 teaspoons of toasted onion, and a teaspoon of granulated garlic. And I'll also add about a teaspoon of chili con carne seasoning. If you want to make it spicy, you could also add chipotle or smoked ghost pepper, although I think many Finns would agree that Finns do not like it spicy. I'm going to add a little bit of chipotle powder in here as well. Now we'll just take some of this spice mixture and mix it in our kermaviili. And here we go, 3 examples of viili, 3 sweet ones for snacking, and then a savory one for dipping. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Finish Your Plate.